Hello guys and welcome back to a new video. So what the F did Alex Karp say on the Q1 earnings call? So I saw many Palantir videos and I hear you guys, many of you think that Alex Karp really messed up, went on a rant that nobody understood, and why does he do it on earnings calls? And you know, I thought about it and I watched it actually 3 times, recorded a video, the sound wasn't on. So I have to re-record this video. But I was thinking, like, Alex Karp is the founder of this company that we like, and maybe it's important what he says. And I actually cleared up and, you know, looked at what were some of the terms that he was using, and it suddenly started making sense. And I even actually liked what it was. So I think it's quite important for Palantir investors to listen to it and try to understand what he says and how he says it. And I believe it gives rare insights to this company that we love. So let's watch what he said and I will tell you my comments. And if you like this content, please make sure you subscribe below. In the description box, there's a link to our Patreon where you can see my price targets on the companies that are covered. It's $5 per month and it helps enormously. For example, by buying a new mic, because my current one completely broke down and now you're on the laptop and it sucks. So you don't have to write that in the comments. I know it sucks. But there's a new one on the way, okay?
Welcome to our earnings. We are in London. In past earnings calls and over the course of 2 decades, we've been involved in many of the most important things that have affected Western society. But what makes...
Subtle flex. We have been involved in the most important things that affect Western society. Obviously, they're not allowed to talk. There's rumor that, you know, they were involved in catching Osama bin Laden, helping to uncover the Bernie Madoff financial scandal, and many more. But I love this subtle flex.
These times special is the trends that we believed would happen are happening at an accelerating rate. And what's super interesting is why is the broader world so late in recognizing how these things are accelerating, what's happening? What is the genesis of the escapism that our broader institutions, financial, cultural, legal, technical, why are they escaping to the metaverse or faculty lounge jargon?
Actually, I had to look this up, faculty lounge jargon, and it's a term that refers to the elite academics that, you know, like oversimplify things. Like, for example, you know, they say that, oh, you have, okay, again, I'm just trying to understand this. None of these reflect my views, but let's say that they say like, white people have white privilege, you know, and then you oversimplify this problem. And he's raising a very good point. You have to remember that he sees the world from a different point of view than us. And I believe he knows what he's talking about when he talks about the different problems that we have and, you know, how people are not facing the severity of these problems.
Or political structures that are clearly not solving problems where inputs and outputs are totally if at all, correlated.
Again, very interesting topic here. So he says that he doesn't understand why people like go to these simplicities like, yeah, white privilege and, you know, all the blacks are criminals or, you know, some like these oversimplifications, and even political systems where, you know, like you say, let's forgive all the student debt, and then, you know, what you put into the system has nothing to do with what you want to get as an outcome. Or, you know, when AOC denied Amazon headquarters in New Jersey and, you know, she denied her own state from, you know, thousands of really well-paying jobs and all the, you know, extra jobs that they would bring in. And then she called it like a victory for workers, you know, again, where the input is no correlation to the output data-wise.
Why is it that we are unable to see the violence that is occurring as truly something that will be part of our ongoing future and not as episodic? Why do we describe these things as uncertainty when they are certain and are happening?
Quite a good point. You know, if you look at human history, we have had super many wars, and it would be very logical based on the facts that there is going to be many wars in the future. And we have basically fallen asleep in this very long period of peace. And he says, like, why does your mind go there and presuppose that it's always going to be like that, as opposed to the certainty that these things will happen in the future? Good point.
Why is it that our institutions are not even pretending that they will be able to hold the center, while simultaneously pretending the center will coagulate to a center independent of new structures, new ways of doing things, of new products, new institutions, new ideas. Part of that is
that was a mouthful. So I believe what he's saying here is that the government stopped pretending that they're going to be in the middle and they're not going to go very left or very right. Again, not trying to be political in this video. He says that, there is this thing that somehow they're going to be able to hold the center without changing anything and without introducing any new institutions, any new ideas, or any new thing. So quite logical. If you don't change something, nothing will change.
We have theological structures around how we build, for example, in our space, products. And that theology presupposes that the world will be stable. So specialized things we build for both commercial and, for example, special forces, things that are powering current events now were built over the last 2 decades precisely because if you are in the periphery doing the most sensitive, important work in the world, as you need to be able to interact with your software in a way where it's disconnected and then reconnects. Simple problem, normal software sucks at it. You need a very specialized product. We've been supplying this to the world's most important elite soldiers for nearly a decade under the context of what we call nexus peering.
Subtle flex here again. So PhD in philosophy, guys, PhD in philosophy. So could he speak in easier terms? Definitely. But you really need to look behind what he's saying. So I believe here theology, that, we build this world based on a theology. I think it means just belief. Like that is our core belief that, there's always going to be peace. If Apple makes a factory in Vietnam, that factory is always going to work. And then there's always going to be ships shipping the products to US. And, you're not thinking with any pandemic. You're not thinking with any wars. You're not thinking with any trade wars. You're not thinking with any pirates taking the ships. And this is how all the products in this world are built, except for Palantir.
You need an ability to interact with space where you solve certain problems involving compute and involving the reduction of data using colloquially defined AI tuned by Foundry, getting that to the soldier. You need to be able to, in the context of commercial entities, rebuild the supply chain because there's war. There's obviously going to be food shortages. There's disruptions. You can no longer get certain resources from countries. You have to get them from others overnight. The systems literally presuppose that will never happen, and therefore fall completely apart when it does happen. There is no plan for when it doesn't happen. This is why, even...
Did you have a plan for the pandemic? Did anybody have a plan for the pandemic that was, working? Did you have a plan for the Russia-Ukraine war? This is exactly what he's talking about, that we basically completely fall apart unless we have Palantir.
Even though we've been a completely focused product company that is only focused on building these products, and we have new products coming and not as focused on actually convincing people that we're right, they still sell. And
so I'm very happy that he's saying it. So basically, I believe, and many others believe, that his way of selling Palantir is not a good way of selling Palantir. And he even says this, that he's not even trying to sell Palantir. And the product itself is so good that it still sells. And please keep this in mind that Palantir has been around for 20 years, but the commercial side of the business is since about 2018. And they had no salespeople, and despite all these, they have 30% per year expansion. So imagine if they fix their communication, what is the potential that you unlock here?
Because the other products are not built for this world. You have a financial context, just like we have raging inflation. We are very likely to see this war increase. The risk of a nuclear event is so much higher than is being presented in the public world that it's almost surreal to watch the coverage. And yet, there's really no idea of what you would do with evaluating the quality of revenue. So that, Palantir, for example, we are a company to thrive in good times, and we thrive in bad times. We are not built in the way the theologians of our financial institutions would love us to be built, so that you're built, exactly like if we had listened to them, we would only be growth and no free cash flow.
I'm also very happy that he says this here, because Palantir has a very interesting story. He says it in many lectures that they shouldn't exist, and everybody told them that what they're trying to do wouldn't work, and they thought differently. And then because they're thinking differently, they came to the point that they are. And we have a company with no debt, $2.3 billion in the bank, 30% annual growth, and all the other good things that are happening. And I think that we do need to keep this in mind. So all the people who are like, I don't like how they communicate with investors, and we don't like how they do this, and we don't like how they do that, just keep it in mind. They got here because of Alex Karp and because they were thinking differently, and they will continue to think differently. And if you don't like that, don't be an investor in Palantir.
We're a company that throws off free cash flow. We're a company that expected inflation. We obviously super committed to the mission, but was obvious to us, even at inception in bad times, the quality of government revenues would be crucial, because other revenues would suffer from inflation. They would have a lower quality. They'd be less sticky. We built these products for the right reasons, and we're not ashamed to say that we're winning, maybe because we were right. We didn't want to be right, but some of this stuff was so obvious. It was obvious that these institutions, the theology of how we model these things in every context is just corrosive. So you end up with the wrong products, the wrong quality of revenue. So you have growth without free cash flow, or free cash flow without growth. You have products that work now that can be hyped up with sales, but clearly are not going to work the day after tomorrow. No ability to build new products. Why would you build new products? You're going to have this perfectly tinkered model, get the institutions to invest in you and acquire all these companies that actually build products. Yeah, but it's nearly impossible to build products for tomorrow. There aren't companies to acquire. You actually have to do it yourself. Sure, here and there you can look for things to accelerate. Palantir has done that. So we at Palantir are not fleeing to a different world, whether it's the meta world or a theological world or a financial version of theological world, or a grad school version of theological world, which isn't even actually academic, because academic presupposes interacting with the object from a theoretical perspective, differentiated from the object, not importing a theological preconceived version of the object onto the theory and re-importing that onto the object.
That was again a mouthful, and I listened to this quite a few times. What he is saying here is that they are handling the things as they are, not as they would like them to be. And he's like, it's not as Wall Street would like it to be. It's not as the academic people would like it to be. It's as it is. You go to the place, observe what is there, and that's what is there. And he's saying that the academic things are not even really academic, because in today's universities, they look at, let's say, white people, then they have a preconceived idea that white people have a privilege, and then they work that into their theories, and then they go back to how they would handle this thing that is not even there, because they didn't just look what is there. They had their preconceived ideas that they were adding into the... So I'm really happy that they're saying this, because in the end, these are the things that win. Like, you have to handle the exact problem, and you don't have to handle what your wife thinks the problem is, or you don't have to handle what you think the problem is. You have to handle what actually the problem is. And this is... maybe sounds too basic, but many people forget this.
Work like that. Reality doesn't work like that. Palantir, we are playing a critical, crucial, and much bigger role than we're allowed to mention or whatever discuss in public in current events. Obviously, commercially, because our partners and other future partners are being disrupted, their supply chains are disrupted. There's a threat of a disruption in the broader economy, and many realize that the reality of a truly monumental, epic, and horrific disruption in the form of a nuclear attack is much higher than is being reported. But also in the government context, where we are playing an outsized role, and we're very proud of that, and we're proud of the people we're able to support, and we're also eager to continue to help to support them. Must also say the people who've watching this, many of whom share our belief that the future is to be won by people who accept the reality of what it is and not what it ought to be. that you can only change the ought by accepting what is, that you've stuck with us and I hope will stick with us, and we are going to continue supplying the world's most important products to the most interesting, creative, and effectual people in the world, and continue to thrive as this hybrid company that is both bull and bear and comes into full stride in both environments, but in absolutely anomalous stride when times are rough and people are hiding.
So he's saying there's anomalous stride. So basically it's almost like an error how well they are doing when things are bad. And I know it was missing from their earnings call. They did talk about an upside that can be, they were sandbagging it. But I do believe that the current environment is really, this is what this company was built for. Again, you have to know that their deals take time. You have to be patient. Rome wasn't built in a day, but I believe that these times are very, very good for Palantir.
Palantir's products are on the absolute front line, and you see them in the news every day.
Subtle flex. So just think about it. He says that you see their products every day in the news. Just think about that. How big they are. And he just mentioned earlier, they're not allowed to mention exactly the extent of their work and how much they are helping.
And we would love someday to discuss exactly what we're doing, but we are playing a good role in your support, and buying into the world as it is enormously important to us. Thank you.
So let me know what you thought about this video. I hope it cleared some things up for you. And I actually saw on the day of recording this video that the stock price started to really go up. We were 7% up. And yeah, I'm still a big believer in the story. We just need to give it time. And the market is completely irrational right now. So I understand if you're in pain, please use the opportunity to dollar cost average down on your stocks. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.